Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another comic book spoiler review. And I just finally wrapped it up. So it's early afternoon, so I wanted to just put this out here, and get situated. Moving forward, uh, the next, handful of Spider-Man related comics will be kind of lengthy, so it won't be like I knocked out like the shortest ones early, so I can and leave the longest ones last. Uh, because not crazy long, like at least roughly 30, because this is 0 through 30, and well, technically I only read 1 through 30. I think I just want to get into it, but this particular universe, I got a lot to say about this. This particular universe. Oh, by the way, before I really get into it, I'd like to thank one of my commenters. I'm sorry I don't have your name pulled up, but if you've been viewing this, he left a comment some time ago, commenting about my Spider-Man India review. Thought it was fantastic and wish me best wishes for my channel. I'd like to thank you, man, and I hope you all are enjoying this content, because it's I love video games, I love comics, I love movies, just general topics, what have you. So if you haven't already, please check out my Patreon. Uh, this links in the description where you can go and check out my tier list, where you can easily put in like a particular request for a particular topic. It goes on Patreon, because mostly if you want something personal for me to talk about, I can definitely set something up and uh, and put that up. But also any particular comments that you want for me to check out, or a particular movie, or some episode or whatever. The all the details are in the tier list, so you can check those out. But just by just checking out just my general content with my video game walkthroughs, which by the way I just started Fire Emblem Engaged. So the first 4 videos that I made is already up on the channel, and I will be starting for Spoken in a couple of days. So if you haven't already, you can follow me on my Twitter, so you'll know when I'm live on Twitch, so you can chat with me live anytime you want to. Uh, anyway, now, uh, the Amazing Spider-Girl. This particular universe is where Mary, the whole, if you know the story about One More Day, where in the main 616 universe, Spider-Man, in order to save Aunt May's life, he made a deal with Mephisto. Some people call Mephisto 616 universe's uh, devil, even though there is a legit devil which is known to be one below all. He's just a particular high ranking demon ass thing that's only probably a notch below the one below all. Then Marvel never wants to get too far into the weeds on because they don't want to offend the religious groups about using an actual devil or god, uh, at least not in their mainline stories. I did Ghost Rider review last Halloween, where you actually dealing with angels and stuff like that. Usually one-off things like that is usually I guess okay, but what is whatever. But there is a god, and he kind of looks like Keanu Reeves. I seen it was happened to be in a Spider-Man comic. I want to review that at some point in the future. I gotta figure out which comic that was in. Uh, where he kind of looks like freaking Keanu Reeves. If Keanu Reeves wanted to be in uh, MCU, he can easily play as that universe's god, or the one above all. Anyway, he made a deal with Mephisto to save Mary Jane's life in lieu of a marriage and uh you know the whole secret identity thing, because of this is way after the Civil War situation. He revealed his secret identity because he joined Iron Man's side. So he trying to like fix all that, and now, well, fairly recently, trying to like because Mary Jane and Peter Parker are meant to be together, and they don't want to feel like because Spider-Man is like the headliner for Marvel as much as like Batman is the headliner of DC. Excuse me, DC. Even though you would think Superman should be like the headliner because he was the first. That's neither here nor there. Uh, uh, so they don't want to feel like they're aging a lot of people's beloved character, because they make them feel, oh, if Peter Parker has kids and you can't tell stories with Spider-Man if he's old dude, and it's like you can. This kind of proves it. And of course, this is like a different universe, so you can play around with it. But I actually don't hate this, and it's like Spider-Man can be there, but not the center of the attention for the most part. So it can be done, or at least uh, have him having actual kids, because it recently in this anime related, but Pokemon just not too long ago announced that there's Ash Ketchum will have like one more adventure before they're finally gonna wrap up his long saga, because he was always like the main character. Him and Pikachu was always the main character in Pokemon. Now they're eventually gonna have to move on to, they want to set up like a whole new protagonist for the future, and I'm kind of interested in seeing how that turns out, because eventually I want to do a TV show review of each season of Pokemon, and that's gonna be like a long thing, and I want to rope it in tandem with my review of Naruto, from like the young age up until Shippuden, side by side. That's what I want to do, because they're both pretty lengthy. But then I want to also do it with Bleach as well. And I figured once I wrap up JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, no, technically I did wrap up JoJo's Bizarre. I already caught up with Stone Ocean. That's like the more recent thing. So it's gonna be a while before it's gonna be another JoJo's Bizarre Adventure arc. But anyway, so now we have like a teenage 16-year-old Mayday Parker, the daughter of Spider-Man and Mary Jane, and they have this youngest son, Benji, and of course, the Spider-Man. He named his kids after the two people he idolized the most, the people who raised him. Mayday Parker, and then you got Benjamin Parker, named after Uncle Ben. And I mean, I can't put too much. Some might view that as like, some might view it as cute, and some might view it as cliche or redundant. But it's no different from Clark Kent naming his son after his adoptive father. And even me, like, I named after my father, and I kind of want to name my firstborn son after me. So it's not too out of the ballpark, but it's like, but and then he has like this kind of, because he's what, 40. He shouldn't be that old, because he has this one gray spit curl in front of his hair, and he has this like kind of weird goatee that kind of makes him look like a bad guy. And it's like, do we need the spit curl? You gotta emphasize he's up there in age. He's not 60, people. Well, not 60, but it's like, I don't know. He could be 40, 45, but he's, 40, 45-year-olds don't have like gray hair yet. You probably will see that maybe the mid 50s get into the 60s, and he's obviously not that old. He's not even that point. He's still vibrant. And the reason he's not like he's retired at this point in this universe because one of his last battles was with the Green Goblin, which caused the Green Goblin's death. But in the process, Spider-Man lost his right leg, right below like the knee. So he was forced into retirement, and now he has like a prosthetic leg. And for the most part, he walks with a cane. And then of course, Spider Girl, Mayday, eventually during like right at puberty, you'll think like, oh, she's kind of like a mutant, but not necessarily in that. It's different. It's not like just randomness of X gene, the way that works. This is just inheritance of the powers through still genetics, but so she decides because like hey, this family and like a few other people outside the family, there's like I guess Ben Urich, who was like an associate or supporting character for mostly Daredevil, but every once in a while Peter Parker, I guess he has a kid, because Peter works as a forensic scientist, kind of like Barry Allen, for the New York Police Department, and he works alongside Ben Urich's kid, which Mayday call him Uncle Urich. Phil Urich, that's what his first name is. So now, Mayday, attends Midtown High, and she has like her group of friends, and this is made around like 2007, 8 kind of thing, and this is like a critical point in time because the ads in these comics all center around like the third Sam Raimi Spider-Man, The Dark Knight Rises, or it's either Rises or Batman Begins, and then of course the Iron Man game based off the first movie. 2008 was like a very pivotal turning point in movie, comic book movies. It's like the end of one era of crappy-ish comic book movies that people didn't have much faith in, and the beginning of what we know to be like the shared superhero universe thing. Little did we know back then how big of a moment we have right now. It's a huge turning point. It was kind of funny. Anyway, there was a comment made by one of Spider-Man's bad guys in the later half of the 30-issue run, where it's like Peter Parker never really had this much support like this. I think it was the middle half, but it made this point like all these assets that Spider-Girl has. Spider-Man never really had that like that. He usually had to deal with things for the large part on his own, and to some extent that's true, but he had the Fantastic Four every once in a while. If the writers remembered that he has friends, he would be written to try to call them up or try to ask for help, and depending on the situation, they would come burst in. Of course, they got the Miles Morales and other Spider people, but you'll see in a few issues that Mayday has some fair bit of superhero support, and we'll get to it. But some of these characters, these little side supporting characters, are the dumbest looking characters I ever seen. And I get it, this is like a whole separate kind of universe. It was, doing the writers were doing his own thing. Oh, speaking of which, like who was it? The Falco and Franz, uh, writer and artist of the Spider Girl uh, uh, issues. So, uh, Mayday at school has uh, uh, this guy named Wes who's clearly into her, but it's kind of like doing this whole, love high school BS drama CW shit, but he's too much like kind of he's not a simp, but he's not stepping up to the plate and let it be known. He's the nice guy. They play kind of, but even though like there's other people in the friend group who know that he's into her, but he's just not like, you know, have the cojones to actually do it. He's like perfectly content just being there as a friend, and it's like clearly it's not the thing. Then there's Davida, and this black chick that kind of looked like Grace Jones. Uh, if you don't know, is kind of like a '90s kind of. I think she was a music artist. I'm not sure. I don't listen to Grace Jones. No, she wasn't a music. I think she was just an actress. Uh, I think I did last year. I did this movie review of Boomerang, and this '90s movie starring Eddie Murphy, David Allen Greer, Martin Lawrence. I think Grace Jones had like a supporting role in that as one of these outlandish supermodel for this kind of fragrance, fragrance, and it's like she had this kind of like just if you ever watch House Party, it's kind of like the kids flat top but only like really shorter, and she like man, it's kind of like weird given today's modern society standards of how feminism and everything like that. This woman is like all like things ain't changed since Adam. Boys haven't changed since Adam, and like just like just girl power, kind of shtick. Uh, without any kind of nuances or anything like that. But anyway, David Kirby. And now clearly the last name kind of, I guess, harkens to maybe Jack Kirby. But David, that's part of the stupidest name. There's something about that is part of making it the stupidest name that tied with another stupid name, but I don't think it's as bad as David Duh. You couldn't take the extra effort to give this woman a female name. You give her Davida, and like then you got like this other female character is kind of frumpy, and she has like a boyfriend she's freaking out about because he hasn't called her back when he moved because he's dealing with a father who's dying of cancer and everything like that. That comes into play later, and is a very frumpy dumpy kind of girl. And it's like the island of misfits freaking toys here with these group of friends. It's like the writer and artist wanted to make it. You ever grew up in the '90s? You know about like the Burger King's Kids Club, and like you got to have one black kid, one paraplegic, and one white kid, and one Asian kid. It's like you got to have this like multifaceted thing, and it's like, oh my freaking god, and it's like so, and it's like it kind of blows my mind. And then the worst of the worst is the fact that she is in a relationship with Gene Thompson, who's the son of Flash Thompson. And of course, David doesn't like him because he's kind of like just like, oh, alpha male jock. Because she has her own freaking issues. Like she, kind of weird, kind of prejudice. Just because he's a jock doesn't mean he's like kind of like a automatically makes him like male chauvinistic a-hole. But in this case, he is because, well, not to the crazy stereotypical aspect, but clearly this guy, I don't know what kind of crap he picked up from his father, because we know Flash Thompson in the main 616 universe, where he's kind of like evolved and grown up, ain't not that kind of dopey, uh, bully jock that he once was. And it's kind of funny, like, the evolution of Flash Thompson, where he could have easily just been relegated to just a one-off side character, not one-off, but just one of Peter Parker's just side supporting characters, and now he's a superhero related. Like people really like Flash Thompson as Agent Venom because he had like a Venom symbiote. I think they got him like a different one now, but it's whatever. He's completely reinvented, but I think it was like a pretty good progression rather than just because you can tell sometimes when people just want to force a side character to have powers or just be part of the superhero group because they don't want to be relegated to the sidelines. Like perfect example in the Supergirl CW show where they have Jimmy Olsen, feeling like who played the role as this other comic book character named Guardian, who in the comics is a completely different person. And it's like, I want to do something. I want to step up. Because, yeah, I like the idea that in Supergirl, Jimmy Olsen's not like the nebbish photographer that he used to be, but he kind of grew into his own thanks to his time with Superman. But now he's like, oh, I got to do more and everything like that. And it's like, no, you don't. It's like a healthy progression that I thought was good is like, yeah, he runs Catco, a newspaper organization, because like from photographer to head of the news outlet, and it's like that is a natural progression, and it could just been relegated to that. No, he also has to be like a superhero because he needs something for him to do. It's like I can't stand that kind of thing, but I think Flash Thompson is like a good example of something that's doing that but done right, to where it's like a natural progression. He went to the army because he idolizes Spider-Man, so he goes to the army because he wants to do his part to help the world, and he thought like, okay, join the army is the best way to do that. And then he ends up losing his legs. He goes to this kind of secret project where the government bonds him with the symbiote so he can work for the government and help out in that capacity and so on and so forth. And then the Venom goes back to Betty Brock, and it's a whole thing. You can easily look it up, but I think that's like a good healthy progression of Flash Thompson. In this universe, if obviously that didn't all happen, Flash Thompson, who say he grew up, but not to the point of like, okay, you don't see him here, but it's like, what did you teach this kid that you thought it's probably best to make sure your kid doesn't grow up in high school to be like a jerky jock like you were? Because there's people that I knew in high school. I'm pretty sure a lot of people knew some people in high school that were the cool kids and that was bullied, but they kind of grew out of that once they got older. And you don't want like your son Gene to act the same way you did, and maybe not to like that degree. He probably didn't. He doesn't do that like what Flash did to that degree, but he's still kind of self-centered in a way, and he treats like Mayday almost like her world should revolve around him kind of situation. You can get the sense he does care about her, but not it's not of equal exchange. And he's also sister to Felicia Hardy, so I guess Felicity Hardy, who is also the daughter of Felicia Hardy. And I can't recall if like Flash and Felicia actually like just got together and had children, or they were together. They had one kid and they separated and they had like another. Like for argument's sake, let's say that they were together and they had two kids, and it was Jean and Felicity. Then you also got like, of course, Mayday's version of a Flash Thompson, quote unquote. You got Simone, who kind of looks like an evil Gwen Stacy, but more like an angular face. Like she got like some serious Botox or something. Uh, as you know, and they're competing for this high school president, or what have you. And David is like her, like, Mayday's, kind of campaign manager. And they treat it like so freaking seriously here. It's like it's just a freaking high school, and David is like extremely serious about that stuff. And it's like, you gotta be here on time after school. We need to go over these things. You need to stop being late. And it's like, girl, it's just a high school. Of course, these are high school kids. They, treat this kind of time like kind of seriously. Then it's like somebody needs to sit these people down. It's like, look, none of this freaking matters at the end of the day. You just, you give these extracurricular activities that is beneficial for maybe college purposes, to see like you're active and you have some sense of responsibility and maturity and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're in the adult world and you're looking back, you'll see how freaking dumb it is. Cause like Spirit Day, who gives a crap about Spirit Day? Like it's like I didn't really go to the end of Spirit Day when I went, because even then I thought it was kind of dumb. But like, as people I knew in high school that really wants to be at those rallies and all this other stuff, mostly because they probably had people they know that was in like the like football and basketball and all that other stuff. Like, I didn't really give a shit. And then of course Felicity Hardy, for a time was like Spider Girl's sidekick, and she got bug her up her ass with Mayday, because at this point in time, Mayday has stopped being Spider Girl, because there was a battle with Hobgoblin, like a different Hobgoblin, not Jason Macendale, where she almost died, and she made a promise to her parents that she just won't be Spider Girl anymore. So now she can just completely focus on schoolwork and life, with her friends, and she has like all this time in the world. And the reason she got with Jean, because it was like some kind of summer thing that they met up, and they had like some kind of spark or whatever like that. And of course, everybody's especially David, telling her how much of an asshole he is, or an idiot, or how he's treating her, because they throughout this 30 issue run, they be like at least a couple of times when they get on and and then get off with this relationship. And it's like it's typical for like girls. They always go with like, they can't help but go with bad boys, or they ignore those boyfriends' bad behavior, and it all comes to the head later on. But it's just like girl, it's like, wake up. And it's like, this is why like I'm afraid of having daughters, because I don't want to sit there and deal with like, oh, and then like Mary Jane, like she sees outside like, oh, she's kissing this. Of course she probably don't think Jean is like an not the same as her father was, but she seems to be letting a lot of crap slide, because like, oh, look at my daughter, she's getting her getting her jollies, and ooh. And it's like, you remember her, yeah, maybe her father growing up, but it's like, the apple doesn't usually fall far from the tree, and you should be a little bit weary, or keeping an eye open with the boy, given how her father was. That you knew how her father was back in the day, and you just like, you keep your watchful eye on it. You don't want to sit there and like sins of the father kind of crap, but it's like, keep an eye on that stuff, because you don't know. But anyway, Mary Jane volunteers at this women's shelter for when they dealing with like an abuse or the homelessness and stuff like that. And there's another frumpy dumpy kind of woman who runs this place, who uh, is dealing with this woman who's got this kind of like a seemingly abusive boyfriend, but not really. But it's just it's a complicated kind of situation. There's more to it because he ain't there to just go back with her. Uh, you know, she has something that he needs uh, to give to somebody he answers to. Um, Mona is the girl he's looking for, and later on, uh, Mary Jane stops uh, this same guy from getting seemingly mugged by two other dudes because these are the people that he was like answering, he had to answer to. Because there's this during half of this 30 issue run, there's this big MacGuffin, the MacGuffin of MacGuffins, uh, the secret files that used to belong to the former Kingpin Wilson Fisk. That all these information on people that he was strong arming, like government officials and police officers and other crime heads, and uh, there's like this thing that Mona has, and that's what the guy was looking for. And since he came back empty-handed, so they were seemingly about to mug him, and Spider Girl, even though she doesn't have a costume or web shoes, she had to improvise just by strength and agility alone, and she just hid her identity with a hoodie and took those guys down. And these guys work for this new-ish Hobgoblin, and not the same one that we all familiar with, but another person took up the mantle a long while ago. That he's trying to make a play in the criminal underworld because currently right now the person who's like the new Kingpin is the Black Tarantula, who not the same one that Spider-Man fought in his days, but this person who's pretty much like the son of the previous Black Tarantula, who's kind of like, think of Bane in DC Comics. He's kind of like a very like South American accent, and he's super strong, but he got like kind of like Omega Beam type of eye lasers. He has this identity. You never know who the Black Tarantula ever is. They one other character gives him a name that she obviously knew him personally, but you never see his face. Uh, hmm. So now, like uh, Hobgoblin at this point, it's like, okay, Spider Girl's up in my business. I need to handle her as well as handle Black Tarantula. So he has this like kind of Sonic suit. Like I said, a lot of these villains and some of these heroes got the stupidest looking outfits I ever seen. It's just like the writers at the time wanted to mix certain heroes together because they might have like hooked up and their children taking out their mantle, or just somebody in general taking out the mantle that's completely different but has some kind of association with the previous wielder of the mantle. And it's like, oh my god, it's just, I get it, it's kind of like a one-off universe where you can do whatever you want, but it's like you're kind of exploiting the fact that it's like one-off. So who gives a crap? This is just throw names in the bucket and shake it up, and like whoever names comes out, we'll just ship them together. It's so dumb, so dumb. So, and the funny thing about this particular portion of the comic is where these two flunkies of Hobgoblin, you know, are at first arguing like, okay, you better jump in because they don't know what the suit does and what the their body and everything like that. And it's like, you do it. You're like, you do it, you do it. But then like, the black guy ends up, jumping in and he's loving it, and he's giving himself like a stupid, kind of stupid variation of like a Sonic kind of name, just like a vibrational or high pitch, whatever. And it's so dumb. It doesn't even really factor in, but now it's like, oh, he's loving it. Now the other guy's jealous. Like, when's gonna get my turn? It's like, I want my turn. Like, you don't get a turn. It's that part kind of did make me laugh, but it was like, Spider-Girl easily handled her. But then there's also this other supporting character, this detective Drasco, who, unbeknownst to everybody else, works for is Hobgoblin's inside man that he's strong arm, and I think he's one of the best supporting characters in this run. I kind of like him, despite him being like, he's not evil. He's like, he's getting paid, and it's like he it's not like what you see in like the Daredevil TV show where Kingpin has like certain cops just like off people, like professional hitmen, but he provides like certain particular backup for Hobgoblin, or he holds off certain police, long enough for him to do his thing. Certain things like that, or find something that Jasco has like the resources to find that he does not. And here's another thing: every issue of this thing, almost every issue, this is another thing that's kind of like annoying. I know you might view it as nitpicky, but I think it's so kind of annoying. Every issue is like, my name is Mayday Parker, and I'm the daughter of Spider-Man, and then blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, we get it. You're Mayday Parker, your daughter of Spider-Man. You keep hammering that home like we can't put two and two together. I do like the costume though, where it's kind of like a variation of the Ben Reilly thing, but it's like, oh my god, I get it. And then it's kind of like, the people make jokes about the Skywalkers being very whiny type of characters. This is kind of like a play on like, oh, Spider-Girl and Spider-Man, like, oh my god, everything is my fault. Oh my god, I made this choice and I thought it was right, but it isn't right. And it's like, and people hate me. And it's like, I want to give up being Spider-Girl, but I have to be Spider-Girl. And it's like, oh, my father could do this. It was like, I can't do this. Everybody else could do this. And it's like, oh my god. It's like, stop it. Pick a lane. It's like, yeah, it's hard. And it's like, you ain't the only superhero in the world. You can talk with anybody else about this. Like, cause these new Avengers, one being like this another Captain America, but she's called American Dream, and she's more like a pinup girl in a Captain America outfit. It's not really trying very hard with that freaking costume. And his character J2 is supposed to be like a Juggernaut 2. Was some kind of like another Avenger member. Is just so like just silver. He's basically Silver Juggernaut. It's so dumb. But you can easily call them and ask for some kind of advice on how to handle it. It's just like, but you sit there, because they constantly talking about this, the Parker luck, or it's like, Parker drama. And it's like, God, stop. You got plenty of superheroes. You clearly know you can just, bend their ear a bit and see like what you should do and get some advice so you can, find some kind of balance. Again, you're a teenager and everything is like heightened to 11, but Jesus. Ugh. There's one badass moment where it's like, Mayday ends up getting detention by this principal, and because she went out during lunch to like do some investigation into this hobgoblin thing, and she got blasted by one of those sonic things, and she's a little disoriented as she's stumbling try to get back to the school. And so since she not arrived back in class in time after her lunch period, she gets detention. Her mom calls her phone and he picks up. She is livid. But I liked it, like Grown Up Mary Jane, where she just shows up to school with with baby Benji in hand, and it's like, I'm taking my daughter home right now, and all due respect, sir, if you ever answer my daughter's cell phone again, I'll sue the school and you. It's like, and then she hands her daughter like the Spider Girl costume, and she goes out to deal with these criminals who's hunting down anybody who is come asking for Mona, which is one of Mayday's friends, the frumpy girl, with the ex former boyfriend that has a cancer ridden father. But it's like they gotta keep that secret between them. And like when it comes to these like Parker family, they love this keeping secrets. Either I like it best where they just keep the secrets all within the family, but they start keeping it to each other. It's like, oh, I don't want to. They already got enough on their plate. I don't want to worry anymore, and blah blah blah. It's like, you know, that the life that your father led, you can easily like tell each other. There shouldn't be any secrets amongst each other. It's kind of like in Smallville where it's like, you know, John and Martha Kent and uh, Clark keeping secrets from one another. It's like, if anybody shouldn't be keeping secrets, uh, uh, it shouldn't be amongst you three at the very least. You should be able to tell each other, and it's like not worry about like certain loads that you might put on people. I get it. It's like you're worried about your closest family members, and you don't want to burden them. But sometimes you can't carry that weight on your own. You gotta lighten the load just a little bit. And you got this kind of like a one-off issue with this discount Killer Frost character that Sprite Girl ends up beating, but she's like former, person of this like uh, facility with like battered women and everything like that, and she's on the hunt down for like the father who beat her, and then like the former boyfriend who's like a drug addict who beat her, and she got this like ice powers and she's like running amok. Not really a thing. Uh, I think kind of like the biggest deal is like the whole Mona and like the secret files stuff. And Mona ends up going to Cesborough or Chesborough. Yeah, Chesborough. Chesborough. Yeah, Chesbro. Chesborough. I keep wanting to say it's Chesborough. That's what like my mind wants to say. But he's like the right hand of the Black Tarantula. It's kind of like Alfred, and if you watch the Daredevil TV show, it's like the Wesley. He handles uh, the Black Tarantula's affairs in the West, while you know you know Black Tarantula is home base in South America. Only difference between him and the usual right hand, he has one relatively caveat of like some level of a conscience. and sometimes he helps out Spider Girl. But uh, this version of Black Tarantula has like a thing for Spider Girl for some reason. It's probably explaining like a different kind of story because it's based off like a what if uh, storyline that kind of evolved into a 30 issue thing. There was a different like Spider Girl uh, 100 issue run that I was deciding which one I should go with, and I went with like the relatively shorter one because I ain't gonna read like a complete 100 issues. But it's like clearly like a very 90s type of era with like the art and like the time frame. But I think this is more like a condensed, more modernized version of that, roughly, or modern for the time. Now, there's a couple issue run where, or at least arc, where Spider Girl's dealing with this guy that sometimes these characters are drawn to where they just like, all right, you're doing way too much for this character. It's like he's like overdone, because this guy named Mad Dog, he used to be a police officer that decided to he did one heroic thing with Spider-Man back in the day that he kind of took credit for and became popular, and then he started to become like a doing his own reality show where he stops criminals. It's basically like the like Kardashians, where he's turning like his whole superhero kind of thing into a reality show, and he utilizes different parts of supervillains' armaments to battle, the criminal element. You got like the Stiltman's little like extendo boot things. Uh, you got the Shocker's viral blast on one thing, the Prowler's claws on another. Uh, the Whirlwind's kind of belt. Whirlwind's like an Iron Man villain. Uh, so it's like he got all these little things that he uses to like fight back criminals. It's so overdone, and he respects like Spider-Man and by extension Spider-Girl, who help stop like these like these bad guys. Oh, and this whole thing with the whole she's Mayday's not gonna be like the uh president. She's gonna relinquish her running and just decide to give it to David because she's the only one who gives a shit about this know nothing type of election, because you treat it like it's an actual, like she's running for an actual mayor or something like that, and it's not that freaking serious. uh I don't really care for David, to be honest with you. She plays everything way too doggone serious, like uh oh, and then like Mayday's like for the first like 5, 6, or 7 issues, he's like all hung up about. I mean, not that long, probably like a good 5 issues. He's all hung up like, oh my god, I hate doing this behind my parents' back because I did promise I wasn't gonna be Spider Girl anymore. But it's like, now I'm like, now I feel like I'm, betraying them. And it's like, God, it's so overly dramatic. Like, I don't. Spider-Man has dramatic moments, but I don't think half of what he's done is this freaking dramatic. Uh, uh, of course, like Hobgoblin's making a play to get like some criminal element to be on his side to kind of to usurp uh, the Black Tarantula. That was his goal. Uh, he's trying every which way to try to get that done. Um, Da, da, da. Of course, now the Black Tarantula's goons and Hobgoblin's goons are trying to find Mona because they figured out that she has the files that they're looking for. So everything comes to the head. So uh, Mad Dog, I mean, Drasko finds out. He tries to protect her. So it's her. He doesn't have any backup. So it's her and him in like the motel she was staying at. And you got Trance's man. You got you know uh, uh, Hobgoblin's goons. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure the other guy was Hobgoblin's goons. Like Drasko's working for the Hobgoblin. Yeah. So Mad Dog steps in to provide like some backup. Uh, Mona gets taken in. And this is thing with like a couple of uh, guys that Spy Girl knows that is making their own little comic. It's like something that the way the art is like something that would have been made up in like the mid '90s, where it's like super extreme and like most of the girls there are drawn like you know like strippers, basically in like costumes, doing cosplay or something like that. It's like super over dramatic, not super dramatic boobs, but it's clearly, you know, tight, thin ways, like a voluptuous butt and large breasts, and she got like a long blonde hair poking out the back of her mask and everything like that, and she got like a, you know, super like gauntlet thing that transforms into like a super gun kind of thing. It's like super extreme type of thing that would have been done in something like in the nights, because you see that from time to time, not necessarily all together, but that's why we got like something like Lobo, because he's supposed like a parody of stuff that happened during this time when it's like overroided type of characters, and it's kind of like you overdoing it a bit with the extreme '90s. Um, and of course, like Mayday's like dumping Alexa because she thought it would be good for everybody. 'Cause she's already being torn from one direction to the other. She's trying to lighten her load a bit, and like she's like, okay, only Mona's actually giving a crap about this. So I give it to her, but people, and then she getting her posters defaced by some mysterious person who turns out to be Flash. I mean, Gene Thompson, but uh, because he just so like only concerned about himself, and that he would deface a campaign poster of his own girlfriend just to have her focus on him, because he's pretty much like he's got to be like the big dude on campus. Everybody's got to focus on him kind of attitude. But the two friends made this comic. They want to do this little promotion thing at this comic book store, and they're doing this gimmick. Uh, I forgot the term for it was, but it's like Hollywood usually do it with like a publicity stunt. It's like a publicity stunt, and they have one for their other female friends to come dress up like Spider Girl and put on this blonde wig to look like the character they drew in this comic. So Hobgoblin shows up thinking like, oh, you're gonna, come after Spider Girl, but it's like, oh, this is not Spider Girl, so I'll just kidnap her and hold her hostage until the real Spider Girl shows up, because he's want to just take her out. Of course, it does not work, and uh, that plan is foiled. And Chesbro backs her up, and Hobgoblin just assumes like, oh, these two are working together. Her and Black Tarantula are working together. But then Spider-Girl does something later, and then has Black Tarantula assume that she and Hobgoblin work together. And yeah, there's a lot of confusion going on with this adventure, one way or the other. And then Mayday just decides to give when she gets hold of this Wilson Fisk files, she hands it to Drasco for safekeeping, because he's the only police officer that she actually trusts. She thinks he trusts. But this issue is the only important thing that really stands out when she finally just confronts her parents like, hey, I understand you're worried about me going out there, risk my life to save people, and I get it. But I understand your concerns, but I'm going to try to adhere to your rules as best I can. But if I see something, I'm not going to stand idly by and ignore it. And once I turn 18, there's nothing you can do to stop me at a certain point. And you can like it or lump it at this point. And of course, it doesn't really sit too well with her parents, but they're gonna learn how to accept it. But Peter, more than anybody, should be understanding about like not wanting to stand by when people are getting hurt. He should not be judging, and he doesn't judge too harshly on her for the most part. But yeah, I get it. It's your daughter. It's like a different case from what you risk in your life compared to somebody you care about risking their life. But you can't expect them to follow what you do when you being a hypocrite, because somebody's telling you when you were Spider-Man to stay out of it, you would not listen. And but this ain't the biggest thing that not character assassination, but there is something that will come up towards the tail end of this adventure, 30 issue run, that really like Peter Parker would not go this far. And there's another situation where there's a one-off thing where I guess these twin girls that took a sort of mantle of the Falcon, Bucky and Cap's friend, and one of them ends up they get in a fight with a villain. One of them took a blast in the back. She ends up being put in a wheelchair, and then the other is on some kind of vendetta kick. Doesn't matter. You really don't see her like that. There's only one other time you'll probably see her is in the 25th issue, either the 10th or the 25th. I think it's the 10th issue, but not really. They're not really important. But what is important is Hobgoblin try to speak with like Harlem's like criminal crime boss there. Each borough of New York has like a particular crime boss. You got Fancy Dan in the Bronx or Brooklyn, one of the two. And then you got like Cottonmouth showing up, old man Cottonmouth. My name's not Cottonmouth. That guy Cornell. It's kind of funny. I'm surprised he's not running Harlem. Well, he should be running Harlem. Uh, and then you got a couple other people here and there from different boroughs. Uh, uh, so Hobgoblin is trying to, like, one by one, trying to usurp, like, get them on his side to usurp the tarantula, so that way he can have like his own crime army to fight against the tarantula. Because without some men by his side, then it's like whatever. But of course, uh, uh, Spider Girl and one of the other superhero girls, goes to this guy and explain that the other is in a wheelchair because of the uh, hobgoblin. I think it was the hobgoblin who paralyzed her sister. Yeah, it was a hobgoblin. And of course, like, okay, this guy who apparently I think is like a, given like a picture, a supposed father to these twin girls. That's why he's just like, had his men just open fire on the hobgoblin. He eventually escaped. Uh, so so now, like, Hobgoblin has to find a workaround because he doesn't trust nobody, but he needs to find a different way to get these guys on his side. Then, of course, you got to have like some introduction of this mutant girl who will eventually go by name Nucleus, and she had this like kind of I won't say explosive, but just like a you know expelling of this kind of energy. And uh, I get it. It's like at the time we didn't have like the current status quo of what the X-Men is now in the mainline comics, but here it still is clearly not in the future, but a a good generation or two, or at least a generation and some change in the future since the time of Spider-Man when he was young, where now they still dealing with the whole mutant or abominations kind of thing, very bigotry and stuff like that. So it's like a decent arc dealing with this girl, and you get to see the future X-Men being led by Jubilee, uh, as well as, like I said, very stupid looking characters. One looking like Sue Storm in like an X-Men costume. Uh, but there's one girl named Push who's kind of dressed like Kitty Pryde in her early days as an X-Men. And they don't go by X-Men here. They go by X people. Just be inclusive. Like, Jesus. Like, I'm all in for inclusive, but come on. You gotta, X people just sounds so. X people is just like a kind of like a nomenclature you would use as a collective. Like, here come a bunch of X people coming by to help with the situation, but you call them X Men or X Force or X Factor. X people does not generate the same oomph as the others, and it's kind of like I don't know. It's just, maybe if it was the universe where this kind of carried on, you'll probably get used to it. But it just sounds so dumb. Uh, so now you're gonna have this kind of thing where uh, there's gonna be like this hey group. They're gonna human first hey group. It's kind of like a little pocket uh of a hate group that's trying to get a foothold in the school, and this woman leading them in this kind of like a abandoned church thing, and this girl doesn't know what to do. She kind of, you see moments where you feel like Spider Girl's being stalked, but it's really her kind of like following her here and there because she's trying to, because she sees a kinship with Mayday because Mayday has some kind of like agility that she later find out she's Spider Girl because she has some things like she understands her, and you get like Magneta, who's assume like a daughter of Magneto. It's probably Polaris more than likely, uh, taking up the mantle of Magneto and running this sisterhood uh, of evil mutants. And you got this another group of dumb looking characters. One looks like a freaking puppet with like a giant large head that's got some kind of psychic abilities, and one's you know you know this clown big barter bulky woman with bald head, but like kind of looks like Coolio's hairstyle with clown eyeshadow and stuff like that, and this other little name's Pirouette. This kind of like generates gust of wind as she's does her twirls and stuff like that, and she's wearing ballerina outfit. Like, God, it's so dumb looking. It's so dumb looking. It's like, oh my God, it's like you have 30 issues. It's like you act like you're in a rush. You just draw anything, and it's like I don't care for that. It's like even in the some Elseworlds, they put in the effort in the short time they're working on this project and make this kind of characters that still look pretty cool, or you know with decent looking clothing. You don't have to put them in a costume, but give them like some decent looking appearances. But you just drew anything that the first draft you went with it. Oh my God. Of course, like Mary Jane and the principal goes to talk with the girl's parents, the mutant girl's parents, and she comes from like a mixed race couple, the white wife and the black father. And here's the thing, I find it it blows my freaking mind. Why would there's like a Jewish person, kid in the school that's talking this hate speech about these mutants, and it's like, and the father completely bigoted on his own daughter. It's like spouting all this hatred crap, which shocks Mary Jane because they knew her and Peter knew these parents, and they always seemed like a stand-up group of people, and just to see the father act like such a racist, and it's like when it comes to like it's like here's the thing. It's like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes you get like even racist black people, especially like, or at least homophobic black people, and usually the older generation. And it's like I find it shocking as hell that black people and Jewish people who behave like this, especially when it comes to like mutants and stuff like that, and the way they've been hated and hunted down, you're the last people should be like spouting any kind of hatred stuff like that. And I want certain characters like Mary Jane to put that in their face. You as a black person should be the last person to be like talking anything about hatred right now, the way you carrying on. I'm shocked that you don't get that in certain comics. It should be like the you see very little of people of color in these type of groups in certain comics when it's dealing with like hatred towards mutants and stuff like that, or Inhumans or whatever. But when you do, somebody should put that in their face. But Mary Jane managed to like put in like some bit of peace. It doesn't last long because this is the last time you see like the father, but clearly the daughter is still going through some stuff. But thanks to MJ and Mayday, they managed to settle things down a bit. And then of course the principal's really loving how like Mary Jane has some kind of skills at like bringing peace the way she did. He gives her a job as a guidance counselor part-time at the school, and it's like, given how things are with like the school teachers and what they make, and how underfunded and underappreciated and stuff like that they are, and it's like, and you're looking for qualified people, and it's like, man, it's like, what if MJ's credentials, you just hiring her on the spot without any kind of like, because you need to have some serious schooling in order to become a teacher or even a guidance counselor. She doesn't even have like a a master's degree in psychology at the very least. But he just hires her because he likes her cut of her jib. But then at the end of it, she ends up giving Mayday her costume. It's like, you know, no, like I will be worried about you, but I understand more than anybody what you have to do. Uh, then you get the Carnage arc, where the Shield agents, uh, two, different groups, because it's kind of like a splinter group of Shield agents. One of the typical one is run by Maria Hill and by extension White Nick Fury, and they run this kind of group. Is basically, like I said, look at these stupid looking characters being run. Basically, it's kind of like their version of the Suicide Squad, essentially. Are these stupid looking characters, and the Rick Flag among them is Kane, the Spider-Man clone, who's helped running these people, just make sure they doing that thing and not going off board. Otherwise, they will be killed. And then there's another the Splinter Group being led by guess who? Vantessa De Vatane, or whatever Elaine's name is in the MCU currently right now. And it's kind of like funny, like, oh my god, it's like how everything is, kind of put there. I was kind of like, oh my god, because this is the first time me reading this Spider Girl comic run, and it's like I got giddy when I see Elaine Bennis, and it's like, oh my god, not Elaine Bennis, but Valentina, whatever. I just call it Elaine Bennis. And you see like that come together. It's kind of funny, and she obviously gonna be running the Thunderbolts, or at least having like Harrison Ford, Thunderbolt Ross. You haven't been confirmed whether or not Harrison Ford is actually going to be Thunderbolt Ross, but it's leaning towards that possibility. Like at least 80% sure that's going to be a thing. But she's obviously going to be like running like an evil Avengers group, or just the Thunderbolts all together. And is possibly this is going to have like a splinter group. And I'm not sure. Why did I get the feeling she's, got like a racist streak in the Contessa has some kind of racist streak? I want to check really quick, because on the Marvel Wiki, because I never stopped to do that. Okay. Valentina Allegra de Vatane. She got too much of a freaking name. I could have sworn she's like because this by the way, this universe is Earth 982 or MC2. Yeah, she was Madam Hydra. Like I knew she, was like a bad guy in some capacity. She was an agent of Shield and part of Hydra's High Council. Um, well, she kind of got double agent, and she pretends to work for Hydra, but I guess, trying to get this kind of artifact or something. So she's like good neutral, I guess. So yeah. So good neutral. Anyway, so uh there's this asset that Shield is trying to use for a cure for like all these type of diseases. It turns out it was like a symbiote, Carnage symbiote, and uh that used to belong to Cleus Cassidy, who's not around anymore. Who knows what happened to Eddie Brock? But then it's all coincide with the frumpy girl who has the boyfriend that has a cancer-ridden dad, and the Carnage symbiote breaks out of the containment field when Contessa tries to intercept the other Shield agents. Mayday, jumps into the fray, thinking it's like a robbery in progress, and then the thing ends up breaking out and winds up on the boyfriend, who used to be like a Spider Girl fan, but after this symbiote thing started taking over his body, and he's trying to fight it off, he's trying to keep the thing from seriously killing people. So, Mayday's dealing with that, and the Carnage symbiote eventually starts to go after the girlfriend, because he's like his conscious mind still focuses like, oh, she can help. But Mayday, thanks to her quick reflexes, managed to like fight this thing off. And then, of course, the Carnage then starts going after, goes to Peter Parker's house, kidnaps Peter and Benji. You guys like that. Then like things are heightened to a whole nother level. Mayday, eventually it starts calling in all, it's calling all points bulletin with like any superhero that she knows. The new Daredevil, who's pretty much wearing like a super heavily armored type of outfit, but almost like transforms into this thing like Etrigan from DC Comics. Don't know what the story is on that. But uh uh Mayday's trying to save Benji from this thing, and the symbiote put a piece of himself on Benji to transform Benji into Baby Carnage, and that's like really sets heighten like everything. So now like she's trying to save Benji. She's webbing this thing up in like a cocoon thing, so to keep the thing from trying to attack her, and she tricks the Carnage symbiote because like the guy inside is fighting him off, and he's done like, oh, they was trying to use Carnage symbiote to cure diseases. That's any diseases, even cancer. And so the host convinced Carnage to go to his dad just to give uh her space to save some citizens and get Benji. And so she goes back to those hypersonic suit thing that she fought off one of Hobgoblin's goons, gets one of the arm cannons things, and of course, Peter was going to use this thing, but realized that Benji's that Baby Carnage, so he hesitates. So Mayday takes it, shoots Benji, hoping that it won't be any serious damage to the baby. But the baby's fine-ish, But because of the sonic things, it causes like Benji to temporarily go deaf. But luckily, that's all fixed up thanks to Normie Osborn, the grandson of Norman Osborn, who's a good guy, who's a full-grown adult now, and running Oscorp, and gets the scientist to fix Benji. So, but for a good few issues, you know, everybody's beating themselves up in that family for what's going on with Benji. And lo and behold, the Carnage symbiote also taps into and hyper speeds up the uh, spider powers of Benji. So now he's crawling on walls and stuff like that. So, and then after defeating and destroying the Carnage symbiote, thanks to those hypersonics, uh, the host, the frumpy dude, is mad at Spider Girl. It's like, you're supposed to help people, and that symbiote could have easily killed my dad. And so he's like this whole like hatred, Spider Girl, and not even considering the fact that this symbiote could just turn into another Carnage monster. And that kind of coincides with the hate group and stuff like that he ends up being a part of, because he's like every time the Spider Girl is brought up, he just goes on this whole hate kick. Then Hobgoblin ends up going to Vegas to speak with this villain named Mindworm, who's pretty much like has the ability to manipulate people's minds, giving like different illusions and stuff like that. And he requests his help and like a share of profits and partnership if he starts just forcing the criminal element one by one into working for the Hobgoblin rather than doing it the old-fashioned way. At the same time, Hobgoblin goes to these seers that used to work for Madam Web, and who's now being led by Arnea, who is another kind of Spider-Man variant in a way. The only thing that she has is like wall crawling and agility. And she, in disguise, because she has like a kind of like a love-hate thing with the Black Tarantula, but she is now leader of this group who tells Hobgoblin this story because he's trying to get as much info he can on the Black Tarantula. As she tells him the story of how like it's kind of like you think it's he's like immortal, kind of like Ra's al Ghul, but it's like he has power. It's like it all started from like the Spaniards and stuff going to China. He's learning their ways, and through mystical means gain this power of strength and all this other stuff. But then he transfers the power to his son, and is more father to son for generations, and up to this point of the current Black Tarantula. But it's still nowhere closer to like he as much information he's getting is not enough for him to like use against him, because he finds out about this hardest spider that is the only thing that can probably neutralize his abilities, so that way he can easily be defeated. So one thing that all the Black Tarantulas ever feared. 1 second. Uh, and Arnea kind of hopes that this can be is trying to manipulate the Hobgoblin into neutralizing the Black Tarantula. Um, Now, at the same time, Mindworm has been messing with Spider Girl's mind, showing her visions of former bad guys, one of which is called Mr. Nobody. And it's like, sometimes characters' names keep getting reused. You never know. It's like, not sure when Mr. Nobody from DC or the enemy of the Doom Patrol started compared to this Mr. Nobody and MC2. Like, I think like the DC one was first before this guy, but they're not the same powers or the same look. The MC2 Mr. Nobody. Oh, my chair is sinking. The MC2 Mr. Nobody is just like a guy dressed in black wearing a trench coat that can just teleport. But he uses like kind of like Tommy guns or something like that, or just guns. And if you watch Doom Patrol, Mr. Nobody is just like a superpowered Deadpool. Anyway, so Hobgoblin, thanks to Mindworm infecting her mind, because he assumes that Spider-Girl will know about the heart of the spider and how to get it, but she doesn't. But because he worms his way into her brain, he's getting close to knowing her identity. But they get the information about this doctor that's going to help Benji's hearing. Hobgoblin uses that as collateral and kidnaps him, and Spider-Girl ends up getting like calling all hands on deck and get like all her allies that she knew throughout her short career as Spider-Girl. And it's like, look how somewhat dumb looking most of these characters are. Hold on, let me blow this up here. Look at this. There's a silver Juggernaut and whatever Iron Man, and I guess it's supposed to be Photon. Girl, a new Doctor Strange. Nova has always been Nova. And look at this, like, American Dream. And there's some new Green Goblin, but it's good. It's so dumb. Like I said, it's so dumb, guys. The whole thing looks so dumb. Anyway, because I guess everything's heightened because like she's trying to save Benji's hearing because she feels incredibly guilty for what she had to do, but she had to do it. Otherwise, things could have gotten extremely worse. But this doctor's the only person who could save her brother. So yeah, she calling all the stops. Even though they didn't do much, they just showed up for a 10th anniversary kind of thing, and they're just here to do a splash page. It could be more beneficial to show up towards the tail end of the entire adventure, because that's probably would have been much needed. But then the plan fails on trying to find about this heart of spider thing. Never comes up in play again. But after Spider-Girl breaks free of Mindworm's control, he can't coincidentally he can't gain access ever again because her will is just like stronger now. After someone breaks through his mind control, he can't do it again. Kind of dumb. So that's when Hobgoblin just like, okay, just go after each of these sub bosses so that I can have my own uh, coup d'etat. Mm. They're also dealing with this new assassin, this dead spot. It's just got like this woman with this suit that turns her invisible, that sends off these kind of electroshocks that cause people that have heart attacks or cardiac arrest or something like that. Feels like, you know, the mindset of somewhat of a mindset of your typical assassin, like Deadshot or something. Which I have a feeling that's where they got the notion of the name. And of course, at the same time, eventually, uh, Mayday comes clean about Benji's spider abilities emerging. Uh, of course, eventually, Dead Spot gets stopped, but not after we get introduced to. Like I said, David Dev was kind of like a stupid name. This guy named Crime Lord. Even people in this comic have been talking about how dumb the name is. How like it's like trying to be self aware of how dumb the name is. It's like nobody even bothered to try hard to make the name uh, menacing or cool looking. So this masked, you know, individual with a fedora gathers all these people to auction off this. Turns out to be a fake, but this copy of the Wilson files. Drasko has the stuff, but he hasn't even turned it over to Hobgoblin. Uh, Matter of fact, after a while, it hasn't even been brought up after a certain point. Because I guess after this event, this is the last time we'll deal with like the Hobgoblin, because he breaks in, tries to use Spider Girl as collateral to, because he has Crime Lord is asking for like 10% to the auctioning this off. So starting off with the first bid of 10%, just to, because you find out Crime Lord is Mona in disguise, and everything comes to a head with everybody's trying to stop, like kill Spider Girl and Hobgoblin, because they find out about Hobgoblin's use of Mindworm, who then tries to backstab Hobgoblin into attacking Hobgoblin. So everything just like gets all crazy. Hobgoblin and Spider Girl has to team up to stop all these crime bosses before they end up dead. So uh so eventually they get stopped, but then Despot shows up and attacks Mona's uh boyfriend, who thinks is just crime lord, and he's trying to take the file so he can get the money and get back his girl, but he gets attacked by and killed by Deadspot, and Spy Girl stops her. The police show up, arrest everybody, most of which gets bailed out because they're rich crime bosses. But Deadspot gets hauled away because he's an assassin, and there's no way she can probably bail herself out, but she's probably Interpol probably shows up and hauls her away, so you never see her again. But Hobgoblin catches up to Mindworm, kills him in retaliation, and now this is the last you'll see of Hobgoblin, because now he burns so many bridges with everybody. He's too hot to be here, so he hauls off, out of the country, and he'll eventually just he'll show. I'm pretty sure maybe a different adventure he'll just show back up when the time is right. But things are too hot right now, so he'll never come back again. But now Mayday's feeling guilty because now it's got another death on her conscience. But once again, these Parkers, they want the world things evolve around them. Like everything's gotta be their fault. Uh, then Aranea finally meets up with Spider Girl, essentially trying to test her to see she has what it takes because she's immature. She's fine by the seat of her pants kind of attitude, but Aranea has like a whole another agenda which will come up uh, later, which I kind of question. Uh, and once again, she just kept like blowing people off with Gene Thompson. Oh my God, Gene Thompson loves me. It's like, it's like I'm trying to have my life, and like people don't understand him. It's like, God, this girl didn't get a freaking clue. It's like, you way too smart for this crap. And she made some stinking comment about like Aranea being old because he's only like in the 30s, and it's like, you know, and then of course it's like mid 2000s when this was created, so you know, I don't imagine people looked at 30 back then the same way we looked at it now, when it's like 30 is not old by any stretch of the imagination. It's still relatively pretty young. Hell, even like your early 40s ain't the way 40s was used to be looked upon. But yeah, it's all just like a test. Aranea was trying to put up on it, which, the words he points out to Spider Girl has her thinking that, all the stuff that happened with the death of Mona's boyfriend, and, the situation with Benji, and like the frumpy guy that lost, that's still like dealing with like his father having cancer and everything like that. She's like asking for a father, like, can you train me? So he'll eventually teach her things like how to make her own web fluid, because that should have been done a long time ago. That's probably should be like day one kind of thing, way back when her spider powers emerged, because yes, you're not going to be around forever, and the basic thing she needs to learn is how to make her own web fluid. Because Benji, you see, he can make his own web fluid. Just like the natural thing, like you see in Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and like my like review on Spider-Man India, and more recently Spider-Man 1602. Check those out, by the way, if you haven't already. Not all spider people are made equal. Then eventually, Nucleus shows back up. Like I said, she's been falling into the wrong crowd of mutants because they're like the Brotherhood, but they call themselves the Sisterhood of evil mutants, and they recruit this girl who's just confused, angry, which is typical in a lot of early mutant stories. And she's just lasting out of the world, and nobody seems to be like looking out for her truly. So of course you get people like Magneta and her evil mutants manipulating her to just attacking anybody they view as the enemy. And of course, eventually, uh, you know, when Nucleus realized, what they plan on doing, as far as like causing like just massive devastation, which she doesn't want to do, because nobody, like, everybody's like her enemy. She it tries to bolt, but then you see later it caused like a, because it's nucleus, I guess something with that has something to do with magnetic fields. So magnetic manipulates that to cause like a her to blow up in like a massive explosion that takes like a chunk of the of a neighborhood or block. At the same time, Peter gets a call from Normie, who stumbled upon this secret lab that he had brought over from London. Has like a clone of Mayday Parker, unconscious in a tube, which that comes ahead where turns out Norman Osborn, around the time during that last battle, had this secret plan on using Normie as like a possible heir, because he has this cult of goblins, and there's this lady who's super infatuated with Normie, who views her as like the a betrothed to destined to be betrothed to Normie Osborn's, like groomed to be the husband, and she has like a goblin outfit herself, and her name is Fury. So now Parker at this point is questioning whether or not the person he raised is actually her kid or a possible clone, and he goes off the deep end, talking very like with talking with very much agitation in his voice when it comes to Mayday, like she did something wrong. And Mary Jane took notice here and there, and he goes after Kane, who, because there's a thing that they had like this Mayday Day or something like that the parents did for Mayday when she was a little kid, because at one point when she was like a baby, she got kidnapped by the Green Goblin, saved by Kane, but now they're questioning whether or not the baby that Kane saved was a clone or the real Mayday. For all intents and purposes, it's the real freaking Mayday. They trying to do the whole clone saga thing. It's people have the bug of their ass about the clone saga. It's usually not done very well. And they trying to do it again. And not too long ago, they did that with Miles Morales, and this was equally as dumb, in my opinion. I couldn't get through the entire thing. It's so dumb. I think that should be the title of this video. It's so dumb. By the way, Wes overhears Simone talk with her little cohort in the library about how like Jean let it slip to her that he was the one defacing the posters, and she planned on outing them both, because she's just like a shit person. And Wes overhears. He tries to speak with Mayday. She ain't trying to listen because she's all up in her drama. And she gives her, sometimes she gives this guy a little cutesy grandma kiss and shit. And he steps up to Jean, who he explains to him man to man, like, hey, you don't have to fess up to Mayday. And of course, Jean ends up beating his ass for it, which once Mayday finds Wes again with black eyes, she completely blows up on him right in front of everybody, because he hates being humiliated in front of everybody. It may look like a joke, and because he's all about his stupid image. It was kind of like Homelander in that sense, where he's like only focused on his image because he's a freaking teenage jock meathead, and and call it quits. And she just like, yeah, like, I can't believe you this blind to this dude for this long. It's like, you way too smart for this. Coming from, it's like, of course, like early in the comic run, Peter made this kind of comment about Gene Thompson and like the son of Flash Thompson and everything like that. Why didn't you guys have like a sit down with the girl when she announced that, hey, I'm dating Jean and everything like that. And I assumed at some point, this guy being like, in a relationship with your daughter had to come speak with you guys and spend time with you guys at some point or another. Why didn't you have some sit down with your daughter? It's like, hey, the guy's father used to be my bully as a kid. He has some, some serious issues. He's not like an evil person, but he's like a kind of like a shit kid. And I need you to keep like a watchful eye. I don't think it's a, I don't want to say like, I don't think it's a good idea for you to hang out with him because you'll be seen as controlling or whatever like that. But it's like, take your dad's word for it. You probably not want to like get in a relationship. Yeah, sure. Not everybody should think like, oh, because the parent was an asshole doesn't mean the kid's gonna be like that. But at the very least, keep your eye out for certain red flags just to be safe. But anyway, uh, so now Peter's dealing with that mess. The one of the Fury's associates of the Council of Goblins, pretty much just people that, top 1%er people that normally employed in his little insider group for control and everything like that, unlocked the clone, which, spoiler alert, has a combination of a symbiote in her as well to help along with the clone process. And she breaks out, fights, Mayday, and takes her place when it's assumed that she might have gotten killed in the battle of trying to stop Nucleus. But Nucleus, gets taken to like a facility to get some help, thanks to Jubilee and the X people. You don't see Magneta or the sister of evil mutants again, but yeah, May pretty much assumed May's place, while May gets snatched up by Aranea and her group, and Mayday's in her subconscious mind dealing with her own personal issues and is talking to, not to bury the lead here, somehow the young Aunt May, who's trying to be her guide, spirit guide, to like deal with her personal issues in the form of her costume self. And Aranea gets inside her mind, thanks to some machines, and said, partner with me, we'll defeat this thing together. And despite Aunt May's warnings, and her being a stubborn teenager, she decides to team up with Aranea to fight this thing off. But it was a way for Aranea to take over Mayday's body. So Aranea in Mayday's body goes and tries to take on Tarantula, but only after she gets ambushed by the Black Mana's like thugs. Because thanks to the assistance of Aunt May trying to reestablish connection, she wakes up in Aranea's body. So Mayday's in Aranea's body while Aranea's in Spider-Girl's body, and there's a clone out there. So now everything's really getting topsy-turvy. And ironically, thanks to Black Tarantula, he managed to break the connection Aranea had with Mayday, and they end up switching back. I think that's so dumb. But then also, Peter gets kidnapped by Fury, taken to their stronghold, and it was part of Norman Osborn's plan to take over what she thought it was going to be Normie, but it was the plan of taking over uh uh like a perfect revenge, but taking over the body of my greatest enemy. So he his downloaded mind, well, not his mind, but his brain patterns and emotions and what have you, is downloaded and transferred to Peter Parker's body. So now he got the combined powers of the Green Goblin and Spider-Man. Uh, so now that's that going on. Because Peter obviously wasn't thinking. He always attacking everybody in a blind rage. Like I said, this is like very uncharacteristic with Peter Parker. I get it. Uh, I get it. You rightfully upset, but you just lashing out and you taking out on like Kane and Spider Girl and Daredevil had to hold him back, from like nearly killing an ally of his and blowing up at like Mayday, thinking like, yeah, you could just talk with them or something like that. Oh, and that was a funny moment in like the Mindscape that because Mayday makes a joke to Aunt May about like, oh my God, don't tell me it's a hero's journey thing. Can we just like hurry this along and like instead of it being like some mountain that she had to climb and stuff like that, is they changed it into a mall and she getting attacked by mall rats. So clearly moments there's moments of hilarity here. Like I said, I don't hate this. It's just some things are just dumb. It's like I said, it's like, oh my God, even though you only had 30 issues, you got 30 issues. There's plenty of time for you to come up with like better looking costumes, better short backstories. It's so dumb. It's like you cutting corners here and there. Uh, so uh, Black Tarantula, Aranea, the good Green Goblin, and Normie, who would think it would have been like the good Green Goblin, but he's not. You know, they all, because like Mayday's trying to fight the clone, and like now like Peter is his mind's taken over by Norman Osborn, who's trying to seek revenge against the Parker family, and now everything's coming to head, and May is still inside like Mayday's mind for some reasons. He's still there, and you can tell. You, Obviously, right away it's gonna be Aunt May. I don't know why Aunt May is in Mayday's head. You didn't know what she looked like as a young woman, even if you knew her as a little kid before she probably passed away naturally. Your last image of her would have been an old woman. And why she's still lingering after your connection and breaking out the mindscape is like uh she's still connected somehow. But anyway, everything's like starting to come to a head at this point. Uh uh Osborn heads towards and tries to heads towards the Parker residence. He starts chasing down Mary Jane. It's like sweet revenge. I can kill you in like it's kind of like Goku Black when it's like Zamasu taking over Goku's body and attacks his wife and youngest son. And he's trying to do something similar to that kind of thing. And he ends up breaking one of MJ's arms thanks to his strength. But uh, even despite like the Black Tarantula's supposed, amazing powers, he can't like hold his own against the Green Goblin. Again, he has like Goblin powers mixed with Spider powers, but it's like you're, I don't know how old, and you got all these amazing gifts and fighting capabilities because you've seen him plenty of times training and everything like that. And it's like you should be able to like fight back against this thing. At least give Mayday a chance to like deal with this. But at one moment, the symbiote and him combine into this mega goblin, but this also gives Mayday a chance to go inside Peter's mind and help fight back against Norman Osborn's influence. Comics. While on the outside, Daredevil, Black Tarantula, and Aranea are fighting off against like this ultimate goblin. Oh, and Kane as well is there. And thanks to the combined efforts, because Mayday got through to the clone, and she's like helping them, but it's thanks to Aunt May's power of love with Peter Parker and Mayday to neutralize the evil influence of Norman Osborn for good and break that hold. So now everything's ends as well as you can expect from a Spider-Man adventure. Norman Osborn's gone for good. It's never explained because it explains right here. It's like mom and dad knows about Benji's having powers. Normie Raptor, the wife of Normie Osborn, Phil Urich, Daredevil, and Kane all go back to their usual lives. Black Tarantula and Aranea are beating each other's brains out somewhere, or just probably effing because they have some weird thing with each other. Or at least Aranea has a thing for him, but love-hate kind of situation. Mayday's worried about Norman Osborn being gone, but his work probably still lives on with like the Goblin Council, wherever that's going on. Fury got neutralized by the mind control Peter Parker because she was planning on sabotaging their efforts because she wanted Normie to be the new Green Goblin. That's what she was told. But I mean that's how it ends. I mean, it was like still a continuation of MC2 and the life of Spider-Girl. It'd be interesting, like I'm still at least curious on where this adventure is going to. It's kind of like some people, they kind of like Spider-Man 2099, at least they say the 2099 universe, but I argue, even though like some people say like, oh, some writers say like, no, they don't want it to be dead set with 2099 because they don't want to be committed to that kind of thing. But by and large, is 2099 is going to probably more than likely be the 616 future, the mainline future, because everybody loves Spider-Man 2099. It's probably the best part of 2099 because yeah, originally it's supposed to be like a separate universe, supposedly a future of 616, but there's and like they like Doom 2099 somewhat as well, but you got like Ghost Rider 2099 and Punisher 2099 and Ravager 2099, all this other stuff nobody really cared about. But they like the whole world set around that. And I think Spider-Man 29 was like the best thing that came out of that, and became like one of Spider-Man's supporting characters in his ethos and what have you. Uh, I think this in MC2, I think arguably Mayday is probably like the best part of MC2, and everything around it is like subpar. But at least certain characters, you can get some good writers on it and flesh out this version of Daredevil, and I'm pretty sure there's like some MC2 Avengers comic run. You can probably get some stuff from and why these Avengers are probably decent. I haven't read it, I don't know, but you know, I'm not saying it's bad. There's some stuff here that's good, and I'm curious about like certain adventures of these characters, especially Mayday. Uh, but yeah, it's a decent run. And like you can check it out. It's just like a 0 through 30 run. You can see for yourself. Like I said, there's some dumb stuff here, and it's like I point out each one that I thought was so dumb. But everything else besides that was pretty solid. I like the whole thing with the Goblin and Tarantula, like trying to vie for the control of the underworld. That seems fairly interesting. The whole clone thing you can easily cut out. Like nobody likes the clone stuff, but every time we deal with some Spider-Man character, you always got, I don't know what's kind of crazy mandate that you gotta have them have a clone thing. And it's like, why do you think this one's the time where you can make that clone thing work, and it never works? The best thing about the clone thing that came out of the clone thing is like Ben Riley. And despite everything around it, Ben Riley was like a decent character, and it became like a mainstay, as well as Kane to some extent. But that's just like unfortunate. I mean, not unfortunate. That's just fortunate accidents. Everything else around the whole clone saga is terrible. Don't do clones. At least it's a bad taste in a lot of Spider-Man fans' mouths. But anyway, let me know what you think of MC2 Spider-Girl, that universe, the character. But yeah, the next one I want to do is Spider-Ham. And I think that's going to be kind of short. And then Spider-Man Noir. I think that's probably short-ish. So those will be the next two I'm going to be working on for the next comic book reviews. But moving forward, the next thing is going to be, it's going to be kind of one at a time, because the next few ones after that is going to be pretty lengthy. But I will see you guys in a little bit. I got a couple of reviews I want to do reaction videos I want to do that I kind of been putting off for a hot minute. Half of which is because I was the copyright strike that I was on, and I couldn't post anything for a while, so that kind of stunted me for a moment. But stay tuned a little bit for that. So anyway, don't forget to follow me in the links in the description below. Share this with your friends, and follow me along on my walkthrough of Fire Emblem Engage. And in a couple of days I will be jumping into Forspoken, so let's try to get that video up to 1,000 likes when I post that first part 1 of that video. So I'll see you guys